Everybody can hear me. Becca, are we good on your end?
Yep, I can hear you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so just gonna get ready to present my screen here. So exciting. If you're playing a game to see if I would say that, I did say that. How about that? All right, I think this is the one I want to go with. Okay. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. I'm Mr. Hewlett. I'm the Director of Student Support here at AACAP. I'm really excited for this opportunity to be able to talk about something that is so very, very important to me, to our school, and to each one of our students. It is vital that we have this discussion. With the introduction of Go Guardian, which we'll talk about here in just a little bit, we are seeing some very, very dangerous activity from our students on school computers. And so this is a very timely thing that we're going to be able to go over. And I'm looking forward to being able to have this conversation with everybody. Becca, I'm sorry, I can't see the chat. Are you on? Are you going to be paying attention for tonight? Oh, I can see the chat.
Yeah, I'll watch the Q&A, and if anyone raises their hand.
Okay, awesome, thank you. All right, so this is very important. So just before we get going, just a couple of different things I want to go over. If you do have questions, this is being recorded, and we're going to be posting this to our website later on. So if you do have questions and they are of more of a personal or private discussion, please feel free to email me and set up a time to meet with me, or call the school at some point. And my contact information will come up later. But we want to make sure that if it is a very specific question to you and your family that might be of a private nature, to make sure that you realize and recognize that this is being recorded and we are going to be playing it and using it on our website. So just to be aware of that. The Parent University is something that we came up with this year. We've had a lot of restructuring, obviously, this year, and we are excited about some of the restructuring. As some of your kids may have heard today in our assemblies that we had for our secondary students, we were finally able to have assemblies this year, and it was very exciting. Some of your students may have come over to talk about that. One of the things that we talked about is were all the different roles that a couple of us fulfilled last year, and bringing on a whole new group of people. I had the role, about 6 different roles that I fulfilled last year as the secondary director. And I'm excited to be able to just be a social worker. I'm a licensed social worker by profession. One of the things that we really wanted to do is roll out this Parent University opportunity for our families. We meet monthly. We try to do it on the 3rd or 4th week. It kind of depends on what's happening. We bumped it this week because of the fact that we had math nights in our elementary schools the last 2 weeks. So we are back again and ready to go tonight. Different topics that we've already discussed. Last month, we talked about suicide and the threat of suicide in our community. We had a guest speaker come in and speak on that. That recording has been posted on our webpage. So if you want to have access to that and see what that conversation was, along with all the resources that came along with that. The first one that we had was surviving the pandemic, and talking with our kids and kind of working through things. We took a year off of being socialized, and for our students in particular, that was a really, really rough year. I think for all of us, it's been a really rough year. And for some of us, we decided to open a brand new school this year too. So it's been an extra added level of difficulty here. So I'm just pretending like you're all smiling with me. One of the hardest things about presentations like this is I'm looking at myself. So when I smile at myself, I'll just pretend like you guys are smiling along with me. So, and we will continue on monthly with these topics. If you have ideas for topics, please send those to me in an email. We would love to be able to make sure that this is what you want to hear, not just what we think you should or that you might want to hear. Ideas for our upcoming discussions are social media awareness. So this is going to be a conversation that will briefly talk about social media, but this is more internet and screen time specific, and we can get into really delving down into social media, social connectedness, and college prep, and from K through 12. So that's not just something that happens for our 12th graders. In fact, if we're doing it right, it's happening all the way back for our kindergarten years. So those are just some other ideas that we have for upcoming events, upcoming parent universities that we have. So we're looking forward to be able to provide those for our families. The student support team is here to assist our families. We are very, very excited, like I said, about being able to focus on the areas that we are good at. We brought in a whole academic team to take care of our academic things. And I'm really excited to be able to work with an amazing team. Those team members are myself, Mr. Najibi is our school social worker. Mrs. Sanchez is our secondary counselor. She is working with students with the alpha last name in the range of A through L. Mrs. Smythe has joined us as well this year. She is new to our team. Glad to have her as well. She works with students in the secondary with last names M through Z. Mrs. Latoya Baber, who was previously a elementary teacher here, went back to school, got her degree in school counseling. She is here on as part of our student support. She's working with our K through 3 population. If you have worked with her, you know that she's very great at her job and very passionate about helping our students in their pro-social activities. Mrs. Bell has been with us for a while. Glad to have her and to keep her around. She brings an energy and an ability to speak to kids in a way that they really associate with. So she works with our 4 through 6 students. Our AIM team, previously we didn't have an AIM team, so AIM stands for Archers in the Making. This is the team that kind of works with our character development program. We no longer call it our character development program. We call it our AIM student support, so our Archers in the Making student support. Going forward, actually, this will be the Ingenium team. That's going to be something that we're excited about that as well, to be able to bring on a whole team to talk about the growth and character of our school. As you know, AM+, the name AM+, or maybe you don't know, AM+ means, it's a Latin word, and it means honorable, distinguished, and esteemed. And so these two individuals, Mrs. Cox and Ms. Scaletta, have joined our team to be able to help to write the curriculum and to help with that. If your students have missed classes throughout the week, I'm sure you would have received a phone call from one of them. They have made probably thousands of phone calls this year to parents and families of students who have missed classes just to make sure things are going well. They've also been part of helping us with our academics and just about everything. They're out on the curb every day. If you see Mrs. Cox on the curb tomorrow, she graduated from college today. So we're really excited to be able to celebrate that with her. So if you see her out on carpool, you can kind of honk and tell her congratulations. She's the pregnant one. So I think it's okay if I say that. HR is not watching, so we're okay, right? Also part of our student support team and our academic support team are our amazing secondary assistant principals. I actually don't have the elementary the assistant principals on here, but we'll talk about them shortly. Mrs. Garner, she works with our student population with the alpha last names A through L, and Mrs. Cates M through Z. We're excited to be able to work with both of them. Mrs. Cates, you'll recognize her. She was a math teacher with us previously and promoted to assistant principal. Also not pictured here on the screen are Mrs. Jackson, not Ms. Sterling, Mrs. Jackson, who is our assistant principal for our 4 through 6 population, and our K through 3 assistant principal is Mrs. Banks. So we're glad to have everybody. I think that more than anything, it's important that we know that our administration is here to help and assist all of our students. So anybody at the school is really part of the student support team, because that's really what we're here for, is to help to support them. In conversations with the students today in our assemblies for our secondary students, we talked a lot about how empty a big school is when kids aren't in it. And so we're grateful to have them back and have opportunities to influence their lives and be a part of their success and things. Also not pictured here and hopefully in attendance here is Principal Sarah Barlow. She has been integral in ensuring that we have a student support program for our kids. One of the things that attracted Mrs. Barlow to the job here at AACAP Academy is that we care about our students, and we want to make sure that they are successful. So that's the team. If you have any questions, you can direct them to me or any one of these individuals, and we can make sure and get you the help that you might need. And there I am. Here I am. There's my contact information, and Hewlett at amplus.academy. And that information also can be found on our website. So let's talk about tonight. That was a really long introduction. I know it was a lot of fun for me, so hopefully it was fun for you. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about brain development and identify addictive properties of screen time. We're going to talk about specific areas of concern regarding online exploration, positives related to online activity, and discuss how to manage online safety as a family, and then we'll have some closing remarks. If you have questions throughout, please feel free to type that in the chat, and we'll be able to take a look at that and see what we can do to answer your questions. So more than anything tonight, I think it's important that you recognize, that we all recognize that the internet is a great and terrible thing all at the same time. Screen time and computers and smartphones are all great and terrible things. And it's a matter of how we harness those things to make sure that we are successful. So let's go, before we get completely into this brain development and everything like that, I want to talk about GoGuardian. GoGuardian is something we've paid for as a school. It is a monitoring device that monitors all of our computers and any thing that has to do with our school. So any student email accounts, it can monitor all those things. So teachers in a given class can see what their students are searching for. They can see the tabs that they're looking at. So recently we joked a lot with the kids today, with our students today, regarding the fact that they're in class, they're attending class, but somehow magically in the other screen, they're watching Teen Mom. So it's an interesting, and of all shows, right, Teen Mom. But there's lots of watching shows, there's lots of anime, there's lots of YouTube and things like that. So our teachers now with GoGuardian have the ability to go ahead and click into that tab and just close that out so that those students can be accessing the information we've had. I'm going to be pretty blunt and talk specifically about some other things right now. We have had kindergarten students who have used our school computers to access pornography. We've been able, it's been blocked in many cases, but some sensitive pictures have been viewed by some of these students. And so GoGuardian is allowing us to be able to view that. And to help to prevent those things from happening. And so it's important, and that's happening not just at those young ages, but I just want to bring home the importance of a monitoring device like GoGuardian. Previously, we used Bark, and we're still using Bark as an extension of Google. It is a free extension, and it's actually something that you can utilize in your home and add different things to that. So if you want to look up Bark, that's something that you can add in your home. It looks for keywords and phrases and sends us emails. We have been able to curb suicidal ideation by some students and been able to intervene in some suicidal ideation based off of Bark and the different keywords that it uses. It will review all of the conversations, all of the journals, all the things that are related again to the school devices and the school email accounts, and send us a notification when there is something concerning. And then we're able to interact with parents and kind of get help where things are needed. So that's kind of just to lay the groundwork with that. In next year, when we have the full use of GoGuardian, so we're just using we have purchased it and we're moving forward with that. But they gave us a 2-month free trial for us, the teachers and administrators, to be able to use. But that is something that you guys will be able to, as parents, access as well, and be able to have similar access to seeing kind of what's going on there. It is kind of one of those things where you want to be careful and be trustworthy and trusting. But at this point, based off of what we're seeing on our end, we needed to tighten those things up. When we moved to a one-to-one school this year, meaning each student had access to a computer or device, which was required and necessary based off the fact that we started school with all kids online, we realized that some of our students may be struggling or not quite understanding exactly the best way to utilize those devices. And so we're going to have to be a little more strict and a little bit more big brother right now, so that we can make sure that those students are safe, and so we can really teach them some safe online practices. And part of that is this conversation to utilize you families, you parents and guardians and aunties and uncles and all of the things to make sure that you're helping us help your students be safe online. So with that, let's start getting into the things. So here we go. When I was a boy, right, like 30 years ago, or whatever it was, we had to go look for trouble. So here's an example of something that I did. Hopefully there's no kids watching, and it's okay if kids are watching. So when I was a kid, I lived in upstate New York, very rural part of upstate New York. We lived on 5 acres, and there was a 25-acre hayfield, alfalfa field, just on the other side of the road from us. Because of the rain and the snow and all the things that happen in upstate New York, there are big ditches on the side of the road to allow for drainage from off the side of the road, and at the end of fields and things like that to allow for drainage. And so one winter, we thought it would be a great idea to go to the other side of this field. So when the wind would drift, it would really blow the snow and build it up. And so between the ditch and the snow on top, there was a big snow drift of it was probably 15 feet deep. So we decided that we would dig down into this snow drift and make ourselves a snow fort. And it was so cool. It took us like 2 hours to dig through this thing. It was a standing snow fort. We were up in there and we thought it was great. So we're sitting in there and we're like, okay, this is wonderful. So now what are we going to do? About 3 boys thought it would be a great idea to then utilize the cover that was provided next to the road. I think you know where this is going, in the snow fort, to go ahead and throw snowballs at cars as they were driving down the road. What's my point in all of this stuff? I'll share with you in just a second. Another one of my silly things that I did with the same group of friends by the way, you know, when you're around certain people, you lose brain cells. Well, my friend Adam and my brother Zach I'm just putting them out on blast, and it's going to be on the internet. So hopefully this ends up viral or something like that. We decided that it would be another good idea to go down in the corner of our lot in a tent and take our slingshots down there and shoot cars as they were going. I don't know why we had such an affinity for hitting cars with things. It was a terrible idea, obviously. I'm telling you this because I think that when we were kids, you don't have the best ability to make decisions. That's the reality. But also the other reality is that when we were kids, when I was a kid, I had to go out of the house to look for trouble. I very rarely, other than getting in fights with my siblings, and there were 7 of them, so there were lots of people to fight with. Other than that, we really didn't have, we had to really go look for trouble. Just looking to see. Oh, great question. So do you report to parents after identify the students on other sites? So great question. Thank you for doing that. Now I have the Q&A up. I just had the chat up before, so I'll be able to see these as they come through. If it's something that is inappropriate to the level of inappropriate pictures or things like that, absolutely. If it's something where it's like, hey, you shouldn't be watching a cartoon in the middle of class, it's more of we click out of it unless it becomes an ongoing issue. So thank you for that question. Please spell bark, B-A-R-K. Yep, that's exactly what it is. So, okay, sounds good. So the point is that when we're kids, as kids, we don't necessarily have the best ability to make decisions. That's just the reality of being kids. When we were younger, we would go out of the house. We were more rebellious. We wanted to drive. And now, and we'll get into some of the statistics here in a couple minutes, and I'll let you know, and I'll share this information for anybody that wants to know. A lot of my graphs and information comes from this book, and I'll tell you what that is. It's iGen, and it says why today's super connected kids are growing up less rebellious, more tolerant, less happy, and completely unprepared for adulthood. I know that won't be much of a surprise to you, but if you want to just take a look at that. And like I said, this information, if you want to have the name of this book as we go through things, a lot of the statistics came from this book. I really like this book in particular because it's really a statistical analysis. It's not saying this is good or this is bad. It's just saying, here's the facts. And I'll prepare and share some of those facts with you. So anyway, what we're doing now, however, is we're taking these devices with these kids who can't really make good decisions and leaving them unmonitored and letting them have access to making bad decisions in our homes. And so that's kind of the correlation and the connection that I like to make is, and just think about the way you thought about things when you were a kid, or didn't think about things, or thought, hey, maybe it's a good idea to throw snowballs or rocks at our car as they were driving by. I'm not even going to tell you how old I was because that's embarrassing. We think that those things are a good idea. And then we're going to give a device like this with access to any number of things and anything that you want to know and anything that you want to see, and leave that to them, leave that to students to be unsupervised or kids to be unsupervised. It's a scary thought when you kind of put it in those contexts. So let's talk just a little bit about our kids. And so the statistics from this book say that 45% of our seniors spend 10 hours or more online. So that's about 2 hours a weekday, or just a little bit over an hour each day. 38% of high school seniors have 10 hours of in-person social interaction, and that actually is going down. So the number of hours of the internet are going up, being on the internet are going up, and the number of hours of in-person interaction is actually going down. Happiness is directly correlated to the amount of in-person interaction. As online use goes up, happiness goes down. Increase in online activity also shows an increase in depressed mood, And these statistics all spiked in about 2011 with the invention of the smartphone, or the really big use of smartphones and social media. And so you'll see in the graphs that that are in these books and things like that, and I could share them with you if you're interested, that it's kind of just flatlined here, and then the decrease or the increase in depressed moods and things like that all spiked in that time frame and have made a steady incline during that time. So what happens? Too much screen time. We're going to talk a little bit about the dangers of too much screen time. Causes sleep problems, lower grades in school, reading fewer books, less time with family and friends, not enough outdoor or physical activity, weight problems, mood problems, poor self-image and body image issues, fear of missing out, less time learning other ways to relax and have fun. I don't think that would be a surprise to anybody with kids who have had extra screen time. It's one thing that as a school that we understand and we recognize is an issue. And as we're hopefully soon, at least by next year, able to kind of decrease the amount of time that our students are on screen, we are really, really looking forward to being able to decrease that amount of time. As of right now, especially for our students in cohort A, they have to be on screens all the time. But what they're doing on screens is really what's important. If they are doing academic work, it shows that there is less of this kind of less of these negative effects. Additionally, too much screen time may lead to exposure in violence and risk-taking behaviors, videos of stunts or challenges that may inspire unsafe behavior, sexual content, negative stereotypes, substance use, cyberbullies and predators, advertising aimed at your child, and misleading or inaccurate information. I will tell you right now that based off of some of the search history from some of our younger age students, they are oftentimes watching a video and are encouraged or excited to be able to watch something else and then start a different search pattern based off of what's being advertised in those videos. So they'll be watching a pretty innocent video about something and then something else will pop up, or the next video will pop up and they'll click on that, and then they'll cause questions in their mind. And then you can kind of see the progression because we can see their search history, right? It'll send us a screenshot of their search history and we will see the progression of looking for a body part and then moving from that body part to something more, and then something more, and then it has led all the way up to watching or attempting to watch pornographic videos and things like that. And you can kind of see the progression or the regression, if you will, of that information and that mode and that thought process. So it is kind of fascinating and terrifying both at the same time when you see that progression. So let's talk just a little bit about the brain and different, the reasons why these things are happening. So we're talking a little bit about the exposure, but we want to talk about the addictive nature of screens. The reality is, and I'll just read it here, the brain registers all pleasures in the same way, whether they originate with psychoactive drugs, a monetary reward, a sexual encounter, or a satisfying meal. Additionally, screen time is part of that. Addictive drugs, screen time, these things like that provide a shortcut to the brain's reward system by flooding the nucleus with dopamine. Basically, that's saying that it floods your brain with all these happy things, and then your brain craves that. And that's what I really like, the last part. It says it creates a conditioned response to certain stimuli. So basically, your brain is saying, I want more of that. I think we've all seen videos of these, infants, toddlers, 18-month-old babies that are playing with cell phones, and then somebody comes over and takes away their cell phone, and they freak out. And it's really funny, it's really cute, except for when you really think about what it is, they are forming an addiction to that screen and the flashes and things like that. It provides, again, this conditioned response to that stimuli, makes you feel good. And so without that, then you don't feel good. And it creates that, and you need it more and more. Screen time can be just the same as any other drug. And access to that is needed and wanted in the same way that any other drug addiction happens. And it's really kind of a scary thought when you think of it that way. This is the scared straight portion part of this we're going to talk about some of the positive things that come along with screen time here in just a little bit. But this is the portion where I really want people to understand and really hope that we're all understanding the severe challenges, the severe effects of allowing our students to be on their screens, on their computers, on their phones, on their video games too often. All right. So let's talk. We talked a lot about kids. Let's just talk a little bit about us parents, right? What are we doing these days that our parents didn't necessarily do when we were kids? Parents are utilizing their phones, tablets, video games, TVs, Netflix, Disney Plus, whatever you want to call it, Chromebooks, as babysitters. They're leaving students, kids, children unsupervised. So we're saying, here you go, watch a movie, and then they're dipping out. They're going to work. Or going to work upstairs, as it were, where it is. And so that's being utilized as that. We provide kids with phones with unlimited access to all of the things. Like I said, I hope that my story of being a dumb kid, throwing things at cars, helped to kind of put into perspective how crazy it is that we're going to provide access to all the things. I just keep pulling at my cell phone. I don't know why. Maybe I'm addicted to having it in my hand. I don't know. To all of those things, to kids who don't necessarily have the mind and the ability to think through the safety or lack of safety with those things. Parents aren't providing any kind of limits. They're giving complete access to their phones, or they're saying, yeah, don't look at these things. I'm going to tell you right now, if you tell your kid not to look at YouTube and they have access to YouTube, they're going to look at YouTube. If you tell them to not do these things, it's going to happen unless there's some sort of limit or supervision as far as those things go. We're sending kids into the room alone. I don't know how many times that I've talked to students about what's going on, and they'll say, yeah, I was on FaceTime with my friends, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. So what does FaceTime mean? Well, it means that it's just on in the background when I'm doing my things. And kids will get ready, which means that they're getting dressed and undressed in front of their friends on cameras that can be, taken pictures of. Just kind of some scary stuff that I don't think that parents always think about. We had a situation a couple of years ago where a student thought it would be funny to take a picture of a kid in his underwear and post it on the internet here at school. And so it's a scary thought sometimes to think about the fact that there's not making these adult connections like we hope that they would. In fact, adults really don't make those connections as much as we hope that they would. We're not setting a good example. How many times have your kids been talking to you and you're like, I'm doing it on purpose, by the way. If we're not setting the right example for our kids, then what can we expect of them? Put your phone down when I'm talking to you. Well, you don't put your phone down when you're talking to me. I don't know if your kids are brave enough to say that, but if they're not, I'm saying it to you right now. Sometimes we can be a little bit too controlling. I know that sounds kind of weird in a thing where I'm really trying to scare you to death on these things, but sometimes the controls and the taking things away can be a really dangerous thing as well. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more. Please take a moment to write down these apps and to be aware of these apps and be cautious of what's happening here. TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Discord, House Party, Twitch, and there's some other hidden apps as well. If you want to know those, I have a list of those. There are apps on your phone, so you might think that your kid doesn't have an Instagram account because you know everything, and the reality is that I will tell you that to the tune of about 20 kids a year, parents have, there are about 20 kids every single year that their parents say, oh, I don't know, they could never have bullied that kid online because they don't have access to Instagram, or they don't have a device. That's my favorite one. When students get new cell phones, where do the old cell phones go? Oftentimes they take their old cell phone and give it to a friend who doesn't have a cell phone, and then that kid goes and hooks it up to Wi-Fi, and then they have access to all the Instagram and all the things like that. Beware that your students have fake Instagram accounts. It's called the Finsta account. If you think that if you know all the things, I can almost guarantee you, again, with some pretty good certainty, that you don't know all the things that they're having access to on their Instagram accounts. I would say that the majority of the bullying issues that we have are from kids who have fake Instagram accounts that their parents have no idea exist. And it's an interesting situation when we get those parents in to have those conversations about those things. The age range that we have the most issues with as far as these things go are from 5th to 8th grade. For me, and again, this is just a me suggestion with most kids as my general thing. Now, some kids are going to be more mature and be able to handle things sooner. Some kids will not be, and it's an individual basis. But I will tell you that I don't think that there's any way that a student before 8th grade has the ability to handle any kind of social media, especially any kind of social media without direct parent supervision of those things. There's just way too many kids as far as that go. To be very honest, I think it probably really goes up to 10th grade, but that's a little bit excessive, and I don't want to be too controlling because then I wouldn't be listening to my own advice. Other hidden apps. So there are apps on students' phones that they can download that look like a calculator, and when they type in a certain problem or a certain code, it pops open basically a completely different folder with different apps, different pictures, different cameras, all those things that are stored within that app. And so just be aware that those things exist on iPads, on cell phones and things like that. Again, the fake Instagram accounts, that's a really, really big thing to send home to families and to remind families. Sad to say for you adults out there, but Facebook is kind of going away. The teens laugh at the Facebook. Most of them don't even have a Facebook account. So if you're like, you can't be on that Facebook, they're like, okay, I don't want to be anyway. So TikTok, if you don't know, is a video sharing platform. So they take videos, they post them. And so a lot of the privacy things don't necessarily exist on some of those sites. So just be aware of those things and make sure that you are cognizant of those things. The final thing that I'll say about apps, as far as that goes, is that these app designers, TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Discord, House Party, and Twitch. I don't know about Twitch, but I know the other ones. They employ people who will intentionally embed things into the device, into the app, that will trigger the pleasure part of our brains, so that that people will become addicted to those apps. It is a known fact. It is something that they do. So this is something that's out there. It is known. It is part of the general practice. They are part of the advertising as far as those things go, to make sure, again, that those things are being triggered. So I don't know, that makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable to know that somebody's intentionally trying to addict me to something. So it's just something, again, to be aware of. Once again, as adults, we have the ability to kind of see through those things and kind of look at those things, but kids don't necessarily, because they're, again, dumb enough to throw rocks at cars or whatever. I mean, you guys would never do that, right? But I did. Again, thoughts. Let's talk about us. Let's talk about kids. Here are some questions to ask about addiction. I think that it's probably a strong word that everybody's really afraid to use, but the reality is that if you take your kids' phone away, they act like you took away their last drink. Well, I mean, hopefully they're not drinking, but I think you know what I mean. So things to look at here. I'll just read through these things real quick. Losing track of time while online, responsibilities and tasks fall behind because of time spent online. Again, we just named 99% of our kids. Isolation or distance from friends and family, noticeable guilt or defensiveness about how much time you spend online or what activities you engage in. You're spending too much time on Tom. Why are you always attacking me about this? That's what that kind of looks like, in case you didn't know. Using the internet to improve your mood or finding pleasure, relief, or gratification from your time spent online. Failed attempts at cutting back on internet use. Again, so you say, oh, I'm done. I don't know how many times I see people on Instagram or Facebook say, I'm deleting my account for 2 days and then they're back, right? No judgment if you did that. We still love you if you've done that. Do it again. Keep doing it. You can't quit for real unless you quit for the first time. So physical symptoms such as carpal tunnel syndrome, headaches, back or neck aches, unexplained weight gain or loss, dry eyes, strained images, or sleep disturbances. So those are all things, and these are not just for kids. I am specifically bringing it up in a slide that's entitled, Am I Addicted to the Internet? Because it's important that as the adults, we make sure that we're giving accounting for what we're doing to set a good example for our kids. let's talk about some positives. We talked a little bit about the scared straight stuff. I think that you probably wouldn't be on this if you didn't already feel those things, but I just wanted to give you some ammunition when you have to talk to your kids. So now you're loaded with ammunition to have this conversation with your kids and make sure that everybody's being safe. But they're going to talk about these things, and I want to make sure that you understand that they're not lying. Screen time and time on Instagram or whatever it is can be positive when done in the right way. It can decrease, and these come from statistics from this book again, decrease in dangerous party attendance. Kids just aren't getting out anymore like they used to. They are able to do at their home what we used to have to sneak out to go do. I mean, I never snuck out. What people used to have to sneak out to go do. They don't have to go to hang out at the mall anymore because they can just be together in their home and they can go shopping on Amazon together or whatever it is that they do. Increased social connectedness during the pandemic in particular. I know every single student that I've talked to was emotionally affected by the isolation caused by the pandemic. And one of the things that helped them overcome that was their ability to connect to people through gaming, through their time on social media. I have a really, really good friend who was using taking away gaming as a punishment for bad grades or something along those lines. And this child told this parent, it's the only time that I can talk to my friends. And so it was a really, really big shot to the heart of this person, because of the fact that they really wanted to make sure that their kid was having opportunities to be social. And so it can be a positive thing for our kids to be social, again, with the right amount. It has decreased the amount of teen drivers. I don't know about you, but my insurance is through the roof. And so the fact that there are fewer teen drivers makes me safer out there. So kids just don't want to get their driver's license anymore. Again, they don't want to get out of the house. They're not worried about that. Oops, let's go back again. It has decreased illicit drug use and decreased binge drinking. Again, if they're not going to parties where these things are happening because they're staying at home, or they're getting together, hanging out on FaceTime or in group chats or things along those lines, those things are helping keeping them safe and away from those things. So what can we do? I'm not going to read through all of these things because we're getting a little bit tight on time, but I just want to have this up here. You kind of let you read through them as they go through. Things that I want to talk specifically about: turning your screens off during family outings, during family time. Making sure that as parents that we are committed to that as well. It can't just be turn your phones off. You guys are ridiculous, because I will tell you right now that every single one of your kids thinks that you have an addiction to phones as well and to screen time. So turning those things off, and again, leading from out front. That was part of the reason why we talked a little bit about ourselves and these things. Learn about and use parental controls. You can, through your cell phone provider, you can set different times and limitations. You can have your phones turned off at a certain time. You can have phones limited to only take phone calls or text messages from certain people during school hours or during nighttime hours. You can set your Wi-Fi to turn off at a certain time. So if they are a Wi-Fi dependent device, then your Wi-Fi shuts off through your server and through your Cox or whatever it is that you use, your internet provider. You can set those limitations. Avoid using screens as pacifiers, babysitters, or to stop tantrums. If a child, this is probably for younger kids, it might be for their 18-year-olds out there. I don't know, occasionally they get a little bit cry-y, especially at the end of the school year when they're thinking they're going to fail and not going to college. They get really weepy. So you might want to be able to use that for them. But anyway, so stopping tantrums, using phones and screen time to be able to do that. Here's a big one. This would save probably about 30% of the issues that we have at the school. Would be this one right here. It's the very last one. Turn off screens and remove them from bedrooms 30 to 60 minutes before bedtime. I cannot tell you how many times we have seen at 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:30 in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, conversations that shouldn't be happening, searches that should not be happening, and any kind of use of things that should not be happening. In fact, you can see it by the minute and see it by the hour. The unsupervised time when they think mom and dad or auntie or uncle or whoever it is at the home can't see them, that's when things are happening. My strong suggestion is to have a family charging station where all devices go and they're plugged in and everybody leaves them there for the night, and they are not to be removed from that point, because there should not, and I cannot express to you enough how dangerous it is to have a tired person who's not thinking well, who doesn't have the full use of their brain. By the way, kids don't have the full use of their brain, and to have access to those things unsupervised and unfiltered. Familiarize yourself with programming that makes sure that is age appropriate. Don't let your kids watch something that you don't know what it is. Don't let them just have carte blanche use of different things. The things that are popping up on shows right now, it's alarming. Talk to your kids about these kinds of things. Open up the lines of communication. Be aware of advertising, how it influences choices. Again, I've talked about this before, but set a good example with your own safe and healthy screen habits. Teach your kids about online privacy and safety. We have had students at the school have and share private information, excuse me, private information. They've shared their address, their name, their phone number, a picture of them, and what school they go to complete strangers on the internet. Talk to your kids about not doing any of those things. They should not have or announce or tell people where they go to school, where they live, those things. And you have to have those conversations because they do not know that without having the conversations, they do not know that they should not be doing those things. So have those conversations and have them often and have them frequently, because I don't know if often and frequently are different from each other, but have them a lot. Talk about them a lot of times. Talk about it, because they will not know on their own to not do those things. Last one, consider your child or teen's maturity and habits. The right plan for one family may not be good fit for another family. And we're going to get into that just actually on this next slide. There is not a carte blanche. A lot of the recommendations that are being made, and if I'll have you write this down if you have a piece of paper, the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. So that's www.aacap.org. And again, email me if you didn't keep up with that. They have an article that was updated on February 2020 about screen time in children, and give a lot of this information that I copied and pasted the last two slides from them. So I want to give that credit to that site. But they're moving away from a recommendation to say only have X amount of screen time for these kids of these ages. Across the board. It's not a carte blanche. Every kid is the same thing. Just like even in your home, I would think that one kid might be able to have and handle screen time. My son, if I turn a screen on, he turns his brain off and he literally can't even hear anything that we're saying. My daughter's like, she's got like a 20-minute limit. She's like, dude, I'm out. This is so stupid and boring. I'm out. And so for either of our kids, just in my home with my two kids, it would be a different expectation for each of them. As far as what they can do. Media should work for you. I'll read this slide. Media should work for you and work within your family and values and parenting style. What works for your values isn't necessarily going to be working for other people's values. When media is used thoughtfully and appropriately, it can enhance daily life. But when inappropriately or without thought, media can displace many important activities such as face-to-face interaction and the things that we talked about earlier. This link right here, healthychildren.org, and I'll actually copy that and put it in the chat here. Yes, I will repeat the website. Thank you. So here is the link to this device, what I was showing you, and then this is the link to the article I was just talking about. So copy this, put that in there. So this is the whole article that I was talking about that I took these things from, but it's the AACAP.org. So the first link, the healthychildren.org, will actually take you to a device that will actually help you schedule what's a good screen time. So I'm going to go to that link real quick and show you that. Are you seeing the healthychildren.org thing?
Yes, we are.
Okay, good. Thank you. So you can actually just go right here and click, and I'll just kind of go here and show you what it looks like. It's a media calculator. So I'm going to put my name, it's Hewlett, and my child's name is not this, but we're going to say that it is just for giggles. And he is in this age range, and then you hit next. What this allows you to do, and it kind of gives you some blank things. So obviously it starts with screen time and sleep. It is suggested that within this age range that they have about 10 and a half hours of sleep. So then you start typing in stuff, right? So school, they know that they come to school from 9 to 3. So that's however many hours, that's 6 hours. So we'll go here and go 6 hours. Click on that. And as you see, it's taking away from screen time. It doesn't necessarily have to, and you can add to that later on if you want to. And then you go to each thing. So he's in soccer, and that's about 2 hours, hour and a half every day. Family time. I'm hoping, that we can have a little family time every day, maybe an hour of FaceTime. Kids always have to have some free time. Homework, thank goodness for AMP+. APA had way too much homework, right? Are we all on the same page with that? Hopefully they're not coming home with a lot of homework. If they are, please speak to the assistant principal over your age group, because kids really shouldn't be coming home with a lot of homework. And in increasing grades, they'll have a little bit more, but we really have encouraged teachers to make sure to utilize the time in class as much as possible. My son is 12, and so he's stinky, so he needs to at least take a 30-minute shower every day. Just kidding, but he needs to wash his hair, which gets real stinky. So as you can kind of see, it kind of will take away different things. You can add different categories up here. And then the other one that's on here, it's an amazing tool, I think. The other one that's on here will actually take you through, and you can create a family plan. And we'll just leave this here. It'll talk about the screen-free zone. So they're going to let you set in your home what the areas of your house you're not allowed to be utilizing screens. And it just kind of takes you through all of these different questions. We will not use, and it's kind of a contract, we will not use mobile devices or other screens during the following times. Carpool, this is for you too, parents. Put your phones down a carpool, please. I'm at the end down there, and it's very dangerous when you come at me. There's like 200 cars and you're looking down. It's very scary. So put your phones down a carpool. Put your kids' phones down a carpool too. Anyway, sorry, I got off on a tangent there. I got excited. So this is where we're at with this. It's a great tool to utilize. It takes you through curfews and all the things that we talked about. So these are conversations. If you don't utilize this specifically to set something up, use it for conversation. These are the conversations that we really encourage you to have to make sure that you're having a good balance with everything. That's really kind of the end of this portion of it. I do want to, just as the director of student support, bring your attention to a couple of different things. These are some different resources that we're going to share at every single one of our parent university events. And again, any of the things that I've cited this evening can be shared with you. The research, the book, all of the things that we've talked about tonight all came from reputable sources. I wasn't just making anything up. But the last page is really important for me to make sure that you are aware. In our school community at AMP+ Academy with our 2,200 kids, we have had a 400% increase in suicide attempts at our school. Fortunately, the interventions that have taken place have been able to literally save the lives of those students. Our kids are in crisis. They are in danger of really scary things. Please talk to your kids. Talk to your kids about their online access to internet, their friendships, their connectedness. Please make sure that they know that they are loved and cared for. Please watch for these things. Know this information. Call these numbers. If your kid is having thoughts of suicide or harming themselves, please call these numbers to help them through things. The only other thing that's not up here that I need to get up here is our access to Safe Voice. If your students, your children, sorry, and our students, if your kids know of somebody who is in crisis and they don't want to put their name to it, they can go on to our website and click on Safe Voice and make a anonymous report to the Safe Voice people, who then provide the information to us so that we can intervene to help students. Safe Voice has saved the lives of some of our students. Students have made reports, and we have been able to provide intervention into people's homes to save lives. So please know that we are here to support you and your families. We are here to provide assistance to you and your families, and we love you, we love them, and we hope for their happiness and health and safety. If you have any questions, I'll take them now, but otherwise, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Hopefully it was a good use of your time, and we'll be able to see you back next month. Let me know if you have any questions or anything else that you'd like us to be able to provide in upcoming parent universities. Doesn't look like we have any questions. Am I missing any? Okay, looks like we're good to go. All right, thank you. Mrs. Batista, go ahead and we can shut it down and move on. Thank you guys. Have a great night. Oh, we do have a question. Hold on. Go ahead.
Would you like me to allow them to talk, or do you just want them to put it in the Q&A?
If you can put it, Annabelle Baldwin, in the Q&A, that's okay. If not, just let me know and we'll promote you so you can ask the question. Mrs. Batista, just go ahead and promote her so she can ask. Please, sorry, that didn't sound very nice.
Hi.
Go ahead, yeah.
Good evening. My question was, how do we monitor their after school stay? Because I've had incidences when my daughter will be like, oh, I have to stay after school. I want to talk to this teacher. I want to talk to that teacher. I've been letting her stay back, but then it seemed like there's more and more things to stay back for. I'm like, okay, now I got to cut it out. If you need to see your teacher, if she needs you to stay back, have her email me.
Perfect. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah. And I told her, I said, whatever that you cannot tell me before you leave home, you know it's not going to happen. And I say, if you have a problem with something you want to discuss with them, there's something called email, use it. Try to set up a virtual meeting with them. I said, because if every kid had to wait outside their office, it'll take days before they get to you. So how about you try to do that? So, but my thing is, I want to know, is there a way that parents can actually know in advance what exactly they are requesting from the kids? Because we're just having to hear from them, oh, I have to do this from school and I have to do that from school. I get some emails, but I feel like today, example, gardening. I asked her, I said, what time do you end gardening? She goes, 4:30. She didn't know I read the email already. I said, wow, how come 4:30? Oh, because I said we're gonna stay a little bit later. I said, okay, a little bit later kind of means like 5 minutes, like 2 minutes. Like, I said, well, how come the email says 4:30 at 4 p.m. and you telling me 4:30? So she didn't know I got the email. So if there's a way we can be copied on these emails that they sent to them, that will make a lot.
I think that's a great idea. I'm going to just make a note here for Mrs. Garner, our assistant principal that's over different activities to make that note. That's a great idea. And it sounds like you're doing a great job as far as monitoring that as well. I don't know if you're frozen on your end or my end.
40 minutes after closing, they are usually outside. I've told my daughter, I don't want to see you outside except you see us pull forward. I said, because it's unsafe, it's risky. When you're outside of the schools, nobody can protect you. Once you walk out that door, you're on your own. So she's not the only one. I mean, she used to do it, but now she stopped. But then I see other kids as well, just sitting on the cup. And sometimes, of course, they will congregate, which there's nothing wrong with that. But at that point, you really cannot tell what's going on. Anything can happen. And sometimes coming in, I see some just parked in the car, just like, and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm freaking out for the parents. I know it's not my kid, but I'm like, eventually this might be my kid. Right. Eventually my kid will start driving and just outside. I mean, I know they cannot be controlled until they walk into the doors, which is kind of scary. So I'm just trying to see what your advice is, how we can best just make them safe. Because based on what you said, like we're trying our best. We set up monitors and protection on devices. However, like you said, these kids will find a way to kind of, like, I saw emails, like I will go into emails, I will snoop in emails, because that's what my mother used to do. She would go in our room, backpacks, go into your closet and snoop anything that she did not buy for you,
Yeah.
anything that she's not aware of. You have to explain how you came in contact with that item. So I try to do that with the devices, but I know kids also know we're doing that, and they're coming up with better, ways to hide things. So,
Yeah.
is there a way that we can be updated on whatever that is going on? It might not seem
Yeah.
like a lot to the school, but sometimes I feel like if we catch things when they are little, we can kind of prevent the big stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's kind of our philosophy. There's actually a whole criminological theory on that called the broken windows theory. Just enjoy that. You can look that up. It's really fun. But yeah, so it sounds like you're doing everything right. Go Guardian will provide a window into that world. And really that's going to be an immense tool for you as far as online monitoring goes. One thing that you can do, and again, it is a partnership of trust. And if you don't have that trust, it's just like giving keys to the car to somebody, right? If you don't trust them, you're not going to give them the keys to your car. So if there's been a trust that's been betrayed for some reason, then there would be some restriction that's placed on that. The reality is that kids don't need them. They don't need them at our school because they have access to phones. So if they need to call you, they have access to a free phone. They don't have to pay their dime. When I was a kid, I had to bring a dime to leave school.
Yeah, to put in the machine.
Mom, right? So that they don't even know what a dial phone is. So they don't even necessarily need access to those things here at school. But again, it is a partnership that you enter into with them. And just because everybody else has one doesn't mean that your kid needs to have one. I think that your feedback is really great, and I am going to take that to our assistant principal, Mrs. Garner, who's in charge of all the activities, to add parents to those emails and those informational emails, so that they are copied on those things to make sure that there is a little bit of a follow up. Sometimes kids are going to want to be spend that time. That's the other part of it too, is that if they've arranged to make that to spend that time, and they talk to I think Mrs. Gibson is part of the the gardening club, and I know that she would be more than happy in most scenarios to have kids be able to spend a little time together, in a secure environment. But it does have to be something that parents are notified of. So, and I would have given the exact advice that you're doing, advice as far as if your child asks to stay after, to email and verify with a teacher.
Exactly.
And you can just let them know you're not going to stay after until I hear from the teacher. So that's either going to encourage the student to say, will you please email my mom, because otherwise I can't stay.
Exactly.
And there is not a single teacher here that will give they might. There's not a single teacher here that with the right information will give your kid a hard time about not coming to some sort of meeting after school after you explain, I've told them they can't stay unless I'm notified. Most of us that work here are parents first and foremost, and so we know that is the case. So that's great advice and great information, and we can tighten up on those things and provide that. It's good information to have. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and I told.
Looks like we lost.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. Okay, I think we're going to close up now. Ms. Baldwin, go ahead and give me a call sometime, or you can stop me in carpool and we can finish that conversation. Thank you so much. All right, Mrs. Batista, I think we're good to go. Thank you for everybody for joining us. Have a great night. We'll see you around.